All right, guys. We have gone through 40 episodes of virtual lunch and learns during the quarantine. Super excited for that because not only one have we pivoted, but I think we've pivoted for good. I think we found some good value here, and we found a system that people can be attracted to, right? And I'm not saying we have to do this daily forever, but bringing weekly value to people is going to be something that's going to be a benefit to everyone in our community. So we started this virtual lunch and learn off with no one other than my main man, Tommy Choi. And I have found it very fitting that we end with my main man, Tommy Choi. And today, I'm really excited that I'm just going to sit back and kick back a little bit. I'm going to hit mute and I'm going to let him present today for the next 45 minutes because he is a great speaker. He's a genuine person and he's one of the best leaders I know. So TC, I'm super excited to have you today. Thanks so much for being here. Holiday weekend, last Friday before a holiday weekend, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Dude, I'm grateful to be here, Zaza. Not only has what you've led the charge on these lunch and learns been amazing to see everyone's growth and mine personally, but it's been great to see the growth of your beard these past 2 months too. It's gotten bushier and bushier. And I hope that stays too. I hope that's what we learned during this pandemic is you should keep that facial hair going.
Fear the beard, TC.
Love it. All right, I'm gonna jump in here. Um, Give me a thumbs up if you can see the screen. Just want to make sure. Perfect. Awesome. So a lot of you know who this guy is. Mildly overweight Asian realtor here. But I want to share a couple things before we go into for those that might be watching this on the replay or kicking in that don't know really who I am. My favorite shoe in the entire world and history of shoes is this one right here, the Jordan 6s. More specifically, this colorway was the first time they ever introduced a colorway called the infrared 6s. Tinker Hatfield built this one, and this one was really symbolic of me because this was the shoe that Michael Jordan wore 1991 when they won their first championship against the Lakers. So I remember when this one came out, it was one that I had to get. And the cool thing about it is the bottom, I don't know if you can see my mouse. This is kind of right here is a 3, and the other shoe, the design of it is a 2. So you have the 2-3 on there. My favorite sandwich in the world, and I can't see shoes as square right now, but I know he's probably shaking his head and face palming right now. The favorite sandwich in the entire world is the Filet-O-Fish. It's probably one of the greatest feats in engineering when it comes to food. It's just an amazing sandwich if you haven't had. A lot of haters in this room I know probably are shaking their heads like along with shoes, but you have a Alaskan cod lightly breaded in panko breadcrumbs to bring texture and crisp to it. Melted piece of American cheese, a dollop of fresh tartar sauce, inside of 2 steamed pillowy buns. Highly recommend it. It's amazing. A gentleman in Cincinnati created this. I've seen the plaque at McDonald's headquarters, and that was the sole purpose of me going there is to see that and make my pilgrimage and honor the man who's so impactful that I can't remember his first and last name right now. A lot of you that know me know this. My favorite band in the world is Pearl Jam. Seen them live 60 times. I was supposed to see shows 61, 62, and 63, which I know Zaza was going to a couple of those this year, but this thing called the pandemic got in the way of it. This is an iconic photo for a couple of reasons. This is when they first played Wrigley Field, and why it's iconic is this psychopath here jumping in the left side. That's Eddie Vedder, the front man. He's from Chicago, Evanston to be more specific, but he's probably one of the most notorious and famous Cub fans there are. So this was a pilgrimage for him to come full circle and play at Wrigley Field. And the second reason why it's iconic is because he, or that show, I think it was 2012, had a rain delay of almost 2.5 hours. And so, you pack like 30,000 people in the concourse and keep the, the beer lines open, it's asking for trouble. And thankfully we avoided trouble because the band paid the fines to the alderman in the city and played till like 2:30 in the morning. This is me right there. And this photo is iconic also because I remember the photographer's name's Danny Clinch. He's a really famous photographer that does a lot of Hollywood bands and actors and actresses. He posted this on his IG feed and I freaked out because I knew where I was in that photo. And I'm like, I need to buy this photo. And I slid in his DM for probably 6-7 months straight. Finally, he responded to me, sold me this photo, charged me an arm and a leg. And here's the funny part, the racket in this. I actually have this photo here. I'm not going to tell you how much I paid for it because I'm a little embarrassed. It's the most vain purchase of my life. But for the amount I paid for this, I was expecting this to be the size of like, one of my bedroom walls. This is how large it is. It fits in my hand. It's 8x10. That's how much, we're in the wrong business. We should be artists, but I'm not talented enough to take this photo. So 13 years ago, I started Weinberg Choi Realty with my best friend, Josh Weinberg. In case you didn't know, I'm the Choi of the two. And then in January 2017, along with my best friend and 4 other ones, we started Keller Williams Lincoln Park, which obviously that's the conduit for a lot of us that are on this call today. 2019, our team, we closed roughly about 71 million in real estate sales volume, 141 in units, about 1.8 million in GCI, which puts us here, top platinum, top producers, top 1% in Chicago. I was the 135th president of the Chicago Association of Realtors. That also made me the first Korean American president in the association's 135-year history. We're the oldest association in the country, dating further back than the National Association of Realtors. So that's something was cool and full circle moment. So why am I sharing this with you? Right? I'm not trying to pat myself on the back or flex on anyone here. It's really my evidence of success. And how did I achieve all this? And that's kind of what I want to share with you on nuggets that I learned. But really, we have to take it back, right? A further step before we get to what we learn and what we implement our business. And that's, how do we get here, right? And this is David Byrne, lead singer of the Talking Heads, another favorite band of mine out of Rhode Island. They met at the Rhode Island School of Design, which is a famous school out there. And Once in a Lifetime is probably one of their most popular songs, if not one of their top 10. And the first verse ends with this powerful quote that just always resonates with me, right? It says, and you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here? And why it's such a powerful quote for me is it's such a powerful question that I don't think, at least personally speaking, don't think about that enough. And it's something that I think we should all be thinking about daily, right? How did we get here? Today, in your seat, wherever you are in your life and wherever you are in your business, how did you get there? What was the journey, right? Was there someone there that extended a hand when you were down to help you up, right? Maybe it was someone that opened their wallets to support you, whether it's capital contributions to invest into your business or to just help you out personally, right? So that you can continue to do what you're doing. Whatever it is, I really empower you to take time and think about that today, especially since we're locked in our homes here and who knows how long, before, even with phase 3, 4, and 5 of opening up our state and our condition, doesn't change the fact that we have a lot of time to reflect. If those people are still alive, give them a call. What better time than to connect with them, thank them for who they are. And if they're not here on earth, even you taking a moment in silence to reflect, I guarantee you that thought and their presence is felt and would be appreciated. I'm going to share with you a couple people who have been a part of my journey, right? That have been foundational pieces that helped deliver some of those evidence of success that I shared with you and accomplishments, right? First person that's a big piece of my foundation that's deep rooted is my grandfather. he kind of looks like Donnie Brasco here. And I love this photo. And believe it or not, that's me here, what appears to be wearing girls' clothes, which is fine. You can judge me. But my grandpa, why he's such a pivotal person in my life is, one, I'm first generation in this country. He is the person who immigrated here from South Korea in the 70s to the north side of Chicago, Irving Park, and Lincoln, basically. Lincoln and Berthoud, to be more specific. Um, but he came here. Without him, I would not be here, right? He was that pioneer. And on top of that, he's the person that planted a seed in me at a young age. You see, opportunity was a big reason why he wanted to come here. And a big chunk of that opportunity for him was to one day own his own home. Okay. And not from the standpoint of the practicality of, right, having a roof over your head. Obviously, that was the main purpose it needed to serve. But really, the motivation behind it was pride. He wanted to be able to take his stake, put it in the ground, and say that this piece of Chicago, this piece of America was his. He owned it because he worked hard to achieve it. And that's the seed that he planted in me. At a very young age, he always reminded me, because I was born here, because I'm first generation for our family, that homeownership was not a right. It was not a guarantee, but a privilege, right? And privilege that you have to work hard to achieve, and a privilege that you have to work even harder to maintain. And as a young kid, hearing that from my grandpa, I just thought he was just this old senile guy, right? Just talking gibberish. I didn't understand what this meant. And years later, right, that seed started to blossom when I was at that crossroads in my corporate world and wanting something better, right? Wanting to find happiness. And that was the seed that he planted in me that took us here. Now, he was the foundational piece, right, that really set that tone for me. I'll tell you, the tools and a lot of the foundational tools that I've used, right, to implement with Josh into our business to create this big business, or not learn from a textbook or a professor or from, like, some YouTube motivational video. Believe it or not, it was things I learned and observed from my time going to visit my dry cleaner, legitimately dropping off my suits, getting my jeans, hemmed with the original bottoms and whatnot, right? I learned and observed a lot from this person that I was able to implement into not just my personal life, but my business life. So this is what I want to share with you within the next 30 minutes here, roughly 30 minutes, right? Yep. On 3 lessons of success that I learned from my dry cleaner. First lesson, your surroundings matter. So what I learned from my dry cleaner, Newtown Cleaners on Broadway and Cornelia in East Lakeview, her story is really fascinating. It's a typical immigrant story that's very similar to the one I just shared of my grandfather, right? She came over not knowing any English, right? Wanting opportunity. And for her was to one day be a business owner. She put herself through school on the north side, Truman College, City College. I don't even think it's around anymore. She learned English, taking 9 classes. She connected herself then with the right people, right? The right circle that took her in to be able to show her how to run a business, more specifically, right? This dry cleaner, how to become a master tailor and seamstress, right? Putting in the hours of mastery. And then when she had the know-all behind the scenes, right? On how to keep the engine running, right? She could get behind the wheel. In order to do that, she needed capital, right? And she had the right people that believed in her and invested into her financially as well to be able to do this. And in this, the biggest takeaway that I learned was you have to be intentional and you have to be purposeful on who you choose to surround yourself with, right? It's so cliche to say, right? The 5 people you spend the most time with, you become the sum of those averages. It's true though, right? Who are you choosing to surround yourself with that's pushing you to be better, right? Holding you accountable to be a better version of you every day. Because especially in our industry, right? Whether you're new or you're a veteran that's been doing this for a long time, as markets change, this is what it can feel like, right? Being stranded on a deserted island, right? Feeling like you're the only person here. You're the only person feeling these issues. You're the only people that are tripping, right? On these roadblocks that you're coming across, not knowing what to do. And that's why it's so important to understand and be intentional and purposeful on who you choose to surround yourself with. And for me, right, it's Keller Williams, right? Not nationally as a company, but especially what we've created here in Chicago and what we continue to build upon. That was like this, seeing a boat, right, pulling up while I'm passed out on the beach, just, tired and not knowing what the next move is. And it was a lifesaver to be surrounded by like-minded individuals that are learning based, right? That come from this mindset of abundance where we can share and pour into each other. And it's not just a caring and loving environment, right? That's maybe 20% of it. The bigger piece of it that comes with surrounding yourself with the right people are the people that are going to hold you accountable. And that's in our world, right? Something we say in our team a lot is putting the fish on the table. That's what accountability looks like. And what I mean by that is, this fish here, let's say it's a salmon. I don't fish, so I don't even know if this is a salmon. Hopefully it is. And it makes it seem even cooler all these times I've shared this, right? When we order a piece of salmon and it comes out of the kitchen, it doesn't look like this, right? It comes out on filleted, right? Cooked perfectly on a beautiful plate, right? With a bunch of accoutrements around it to make it look all pretty and Instagram worthy so we can all take our bird's eye view. But it doesn't come out of the ocean like that, right? Would you agree with that? In order to get to that beautiful result, right, someone ultimately has to put this fish on the table, right? Roll up your sleeves, cut the thing open, gut it, descale it, chop the head up, fillet it into the slices you want to cook it into, right? You get messy. It gets bloody. It's not that pretty, right? That's what accountability looks like. And that's why it's so important to be surrounded by people that are willing to put the fish on the table. One, be honest with you and transparent with you on how they feel, not from the standpoint of pointing their finger or throwing you under the bus, but putting the fish on the table so that you can get better, that your relationship can get better, so that you can collaborate and strengthen this community to impact other people, right? On our team, that's what we do, right? When we have issues, we don't call someone out and say, Josh, what the heck? Why were you 5 minutes late? It's, hey, I had to put the fish on the table. We made it very intentional and purposeful to be here on time. We all have other things that we need to do. I would appreciate it if you would be here too, because it makes me feel like you don't respect our time, right? It's not just a softer message, but it's a more effective one, right? Saying we're in this together. And that's what accountability does. Accountability brings out three things in each other. It allows us to be vulnerable and honest. It allows us to be accepting, right? And most importantly, it allows us to be you. It allows us to be us. It allows us to be authentic so we can get to this result of this beautiful plated dish that we can come out together, right? All that matters, right? Right now, and not just now in a pandemic, but in general, right, are the people in your locker room, right? This is one of my favorite verses from the Bible in Proverbs, right? Iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Iron sharpens iron, so we can be the best versions of who we are, right? That's why all that it matters is what locker room you choose to surround yourself with, and are those the right people, right? Because those are the only people that matter. The second lesson I learned, right, is to open doors for people. So this was probably one of the most infuriating things of going to my dry cleaner during peak hours, especially, after, 5 o'clock, and that's 6 to 7 o'clock hour when people are coming home from work or the gym and they just want to get to dinner and whatnot. There'd be times where there's a line literally out the door, people coming to drop off and pick up clothes. And I'm standing outside there, and, as you all know, right, I get hangry if I'm not, have food around me or readily accessible. And even with this line, right, my dry cleaner would, after she'd collect payment from a customer, she would come up from behind her desk or her counter, take the clothes off the hook, walk it over with the client to the front door, open the door for the client, hand the clothes over to them. And it would be infuriating because whenever I was in a rush, I just didn't understand, hey, there's a line of people here. Like, let's go. People can pick up their own clothes, right? And, one of the times when I went and it was empty, I had a time to just, bring that up and just say, hey, I'm just out of curiosity, why do you always do that? And she simply said to me, it's because that's what I do. I open doors for my clients. And what was powerful in that message is that, the dry cleaning industry, believe it or not, was an industry that was also being disrupted at the time, right? There were different business models that were entering in, right? Cheaper models that were discounted, that were based on volume, $1.99 any piece of garment, right? Bring it in. Then there was the tech world tried getting into the business, right? With all these, click this app here, push a button, tell them what you want to pick up and when you want it to be dropped off, and someone would do that, right? But at the end of the day, through all these disruptive tech models and disruptive business models, right, my dry cleaner's door stayed open and those racks behind her stayed full while these other businesses started closing its doors, right? And reason being, they weren't opening doors for people, the customer service piece of it. And on top of that, what was most important was impressive amongst that too, is that, for as old school and small business that she was, I watched her stay learning based and adapt with the times, not in reaction to these threats, but watching and observing trends of her clients and staying relevant to their needs, listening to them. When people were not tired of bringing checkbooks to write checks to pay, right? She adopted, right, these things called credit card machines. And while other people were not adopting that because of the fees involved and setting limits, she just understood that's just the way of life, right? When people were tired of bringing in invoices that are handwritten or it couldn't, be read, or just people didn't want to take them and they would just throw them away, she went paperless, bringing in an electronic CRM system, right, to a dry cleaner, right? That level of adaptation and learning base was super, super impressive. And that's where I really learned, right? There's two types of people in the world. In Chicago, a lot of right? There's people that put ketchup on their hot dogs, and then there's people that eat it the correct way, right? Which is basically like a garden salad and mustard on your dog. Sesame seed bun is key though, and it's got to be beef. There's also two types of realtors that I've noticed, right? People that complain about how things once were and how things should be with no action. And then there's people that adapt, right? There's the Al Bundys, right, that still talk about the time they were the quarterback and the captain of Polk High School, right? And for anyone born in the 90s, they have no clue what the hell I'm talking about and who Al Bundy is. But then there's people that adapt, right? In the business world, we know and recognize them, right? There's Blockbuster, and then there's Netflix, right? People that will stay firm and saying like, no, the world around me needs to change, not me. And then the people that say, no, I'm going to change with the world and the times, right? That's such an important piece that's so relevant even today, especially today, I mean, in this COVID world where we're all forced to adapt and we have to adapt to survive, right? Think about this. right? If I were to tell you 5 years ago even that we would all be getting into strangers' cars to get from point A to point B, and we would be paying the money, you would be laughing. I would be laughing, right? But then when a car like this pulls up with this logo on the window, right, we're fighting for this car, right? When I order an Uber now and it says it's going to take more than 5 minutes, I'm canceling and reordering, right? Why can we adapt so easily to something like that? That's a lifestyle change. But when it comes to our businesses, right, we can't make that change, that motion of moving forward as easily, right? Why is that? Well, it goes to threats. And we know right now, if you read all these, real estate blogs and sites like Inman, right? There's all these threats and disruptions in our industry of different business models, right? Different sorts of tech that's going to replace us. But ultimately, right, the biggest threat on our industry is us, you, me, us getting in our own way of our growth and our forward progress, right? Getting in our own way to adapt with the times, with the market conditions, not listening to what our clients are looking for, but hoping that they're going to change and see the way that we want things to be done. This is one of my favorite quotes from one of the greatest hockey players, Wayne Gretzky. During his Hall of Fame speech, he said that what made him a successful hockey player was that he never skated to where the puck was at. He always skated to where the puck was going, right? And that's such a powerful statement with adaptation, right? Being able to adapt. And how do you set yourself up for success to skate to where the puck is going to be versus where the puck is and where everyone else is going? Well, that's by staying learning based, right? That's by going to things like this, the 40th virtual lunch and learn that Joe's hosted, right? Going to, right, networking events, whether it's with the Chicago Association of Realtors or the state or national events, right? Staying learning based and being open to learn, to be able to soak in different tools that you can use to prepare you to adapt, to know where trends are going. And in all this, the important thing too, right, to stay ahead of curves, to know when the curve is coming and it's here, to be able to adapt, right? At the end of the day, in order to skate to where the puck is going to be, you can't forget the fundamentals, and you can't get there if you don't know how to skate, right? It's remembering the basis of the foundation of your success in business, the core values and the core activity that you implemented to get to the level of success that you're at. Nothing replaces that, especially when we're locked in our homes. The importance of lead generation, the importance of connection, curating and cultivating relationships, right, with our fan club, our data bank, the sphere of influence. No matter how much you need to adapt, right, and how much adaptation is needed to stay relevant and successful, if you forget those fundamentals, right, and how to skate, you're never going to get to where the puck is going to be. And it doesn't matter whether you know where it's going to be. The final piece here, right? Last lesson on success that I learned from my dry cleaner is getting punched in the face. And I don't literally mean go out there and get punched in the face. But what I learned from her, the specific moment. So I mentioned Newtown Cleaners. It's on Broadway and Cornelia, just north on Broadway is a Salvation Army Academy where cadets live, and they learn to become, cadets, I guess. Yeah. Salvate and graduate. And I remember one day being in the shop, and there was a cadet there with this, uniform, and it was super cool and super beautiful. And I was just watching, kind of eavesdropping. She was getting alterations done for it because that was what the cadets had to wear at graduation before they get, sent to wherever the Salvation Army needs them. And I'm watching this and I start to cringe even thinking about this, because there's a point where there's an awkward conversation, right? Where my dry cleaner was trying to basically ask this cadet, she said, how many of you are you? How many of you are there? And I remember thinking, like, what is she trying to get at? And I started to get like uncomfortable, like watching this. And she was basically trying to ask, how many graduates and cadets are there? How many other people need their uniform to be altered? Because she saw an opportunity she wanted to jump on, right? And she asked for her head instructor, whoever the person in charge is at the Salvation Army, to be able to call and find this out and see if she can be the resource and go to for these alterations, because she noticed that, listen, it comes in one size, so you have to get them altered. And there was a point where I wanted to jump in and kind of like save this conversation and make it easier. But just, I had the secondhand embarrassment that I just didn't want to. And after the cadet left, I went and I offered him, like, hey, would you like me to make this phone call for you? And I can ask and see, if there's an opportunity or whatnot. And she looked at me like I was a crazy one. And she's like, no, like, I'll make that. And I'm just like, okay, do you want me to write down like what you should say? And she's like, no, I know what to say, And I was just kind of gave this look of like, okay, I'm just like, I don't want you to be like rejected here or be put in a weird position. And I think she read that, because she said, what's the worst that could happen? They say no to me. And in that moment, I was super just like, wow, you know what? You're right. What is the worst thing that could happen? This person that immigrated here, that owns her own business, that, put herself through night classes to learn English, that still speaks broken English, has the balls to just pick up the phone and ask for this opportunity. And here I am in the corner, just like shaking and in nervousness for her. Fast forward a couple weeks, or I don't know how long it was, but the next time I went in there, that entire rack that you see directly behind her head and to her left was filled with cadet uniforms. She had gotten every single cadet to come and get the alteration, and basically was the go-to person moving forward as long as I was going to that dry cleaner. And that was one of those moments where I had, wow, you know what? The fear of the punch is actually worse than the getting punched in the face, right? The anticipation and the wonderment, right? That's how we are as human beings. We write narratives instead of seeking the truth. And that's what I was doing. Instead of seeking the truth of a yes or no, I was already writing in my head, it's going to be a no. And they're not going to be able to understand. It's going to be super awkward. And maybe now they're not going to ever even consider going there, right? But that was me writing this narrative, right? If you were watching The Last Dance, there's an amazing quote that Michael Jordan, one of the writers, had mentioned, that Michael Jordan said, right? The way he was wired, he wasn't afraid to take the shot, because he wasn't thinking about the outcome of something that hasn't even happened yet, right? He wasn't thinking about missing a shot that he hadn't taken yet. He was thinking about just taking the shot, getting in the opportunity, right? And this is exactly that. And fear is something that I feel like gets in all of our way, right? I'm guilty of it. One of my favorite quotes, and it's an awesome book, and I'm drawing a blank on it now. It's an interview style biography about Nelson Mandela. I'll post it later when it comes to me, but in it, there's an awesome quote where he talks about fear, right? And he learned that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not the one that doesn't feel afraid, that doesn't have fear, but that person is the one that conquers and overcomes the fear, right? And in that lesson that I learned from my dry cleaner, right? Not being afraid to pick up the phone and call and put herself in this position to get the opportunity, I learned that for me, right, that conquering and overcoming fear was the key. And how, right, I overcame that was that I look at it just like going back to that Michael Jordan analogy, right? It's taking that shot, whether it's game-winning shot or just a shot running the offense, right? I'm not afraid to take that shot because I know that if I miss it, all I need to do is grab a rebound and I reset the shot clock. All I need to do is get another 24 seconds and an opportunity to score. And eventually, after so many misses and so many rebounds, I know I'm going to get that ball in the basket. And such is life and business, right? I knew seeing what I saw, right, in that moment with my dry cleaner was that my way of overcoming and conquering fear was that understanding that nothing is beneath me. I am not above anything, right? If this market crashes tomorrow, I'm okay applying to work at Starbucks as a barista, driving an Uber, or becoming a bartender or whatever, right? Because not that those are dishonorable careers, right? But so how many of us in the position we are would never even think twice about doing something like that, right? I know that nothing is beneath me. I know that if I need to and drive an Uber to make ends meet, that's me grabbing a board and resetting my shot clock to give myself 24 seconds to rerun my offense and set myself up for success. It's buying more time, right? That's how I conquer fear. That's how I overcome this, right? Whether it's picking up the phone to call someone or it's going on a listing appointment for a property that's well over your price point that you have zero, resume or experience on. What's the worst thing that can happen, right? They say no. Convenience is built through these inconveniences, right? Putting yourself outside of your comfort zone, pushing yourself to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. These inconveniences will add up and compound to be able to live that convenient life, have that convenient business, right? And the best way to do all of this, as many of you know, myself and our team, right, is through a filter of gratitude. Right? Gratitude is a muscle. That's how we start our days off every single day, even in this COVID world, if it's virtual, right? Because gratitude is a muscle. And if you don't exercise that muscle, right, it'll go away. And it gets harder when you need to use those muscles to get that in motion and moving, right? It limits your range of motion. And so practicing gratitude, seeing things through a filter of gratitude, not only strengthens that muscle for when you need it, right? Two, it tells the world, right, that your body and your mind is in this state of gratitude and thankfulness, and it's ready to receive gifts. You're ready to be showered with more opportunities that the world has for you. Gratitude is recession proof. Anytime you look through a lens of gratitude, no matter what the market is shifting like, you will stay recession proof. You will stay the course, right? This is what I learned from my dry cleaner, who many of you that know me know that it's my mom. And for those that don't know, that was my M. Night Shyamalan twist, right? I see dead people. She owned Newtown Cleaner. She doesn't own it anymore. Every time I share this, people will always go there. And she's friends with the people she sold the shop to. And they'll always call her saying, all these people are coming here and asking me if I'm Tommy's mom. And that they saw, this thing and they learned about getting punched in the face and stuff. And they have no clue what the hell's going on. But I'm super grateful for her. And this was the equation I learned, right? Those 3 pillars. And there's many more that I have. By the way, this beanbag I'm sitting on up here is from Joe Zimmerman's living room. Love that beanbag.
Right around the corner from me, TC.
Dude, I hope you're sitting in it now. But this is it, right? Being intentional and purposeful on who you choose to surround yourself with, right? Picking the right locker room, and making sure that those people you're insulated with are the right people, right? And then combining that with a learning-based mentality, right? So that you can stay fluid and nimble and be open to adaptation and be able to adapt when you need to, not because you have to, right? But when you need to. And then you multiply all of this by the most important part, right? Gratitude, being grateful for every opportunity, whether you fall on your face or whether you see success through it, right? All of this equates to allowing yourself to think bigger. This was our old, well, it's our office, but our old setup where we used to have our horseshoe. And then there used to be this big sign that said, think bigger, right? It was just a daily reminder of following that equation, right? Because when you think bigger and you open up your world to more opportunities, right? Just like my favorite rapper, Biggie Small says, right? Sky's the limit, right? There's no ceiling over your head. And in order to set yourself up for success, to think bigger, right? You reverse engineer the process and it begins with dreaming bigger. That's the key. You have to dream big. You can't have any barriers or walls as to what you want to accomplish, what you want to do, how you want to impact people. Allow yourself to dream as big as you can, because what we dream up, right, that leads to thought, which leads to ideation, which eventually will lead to execution, which for us, like I shared with you, right, our evidence of success, seeing the success and being and growing a big business, going beyond the numbers, right, going to the amount of people we've been able to impact, right, across the table and on our side of the table, all this stuff, being able to be in business with my best friend, and then being able to grow a huge brokerage that's going to continue to even grow and impact more people and change the landscape in Chicago, right, with new best friends. That all was once a dream that now is becoming a reality, right? And it's because of these lessons I learned from my dry cleaner, my mom, and I'm super grateful that I'm able to share it with all of you that are on this call and those that will watch this on the replay. Super grateful for you all. Super grateful for this opportunity. Zaza, love you, brother.
TC, man. Standing, oh man, it never gets old, buddy. That is a great story. That is one of my favorite. As Stephen Natal said in the chat room, it's an awesome story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Appreciate
My pleasure.
And hey man, the fact that you started us off and you ended us with the daily is very meaningful and impactful for me. So I appreciate you being here and taking the time away from your business and your family for doing it again. So Tommy, if people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Come to Maple and Ash on Thursdays from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. I'll usually be on the ground floor 8 bar, move my way up to the second floor. No, you know what? Just hit me up. Best way is on Instagram. Insta. My first name, middle name, last name. Tommy, Tommy, Jew, Joo, Choi, Choi. Tommy Choi is actually taken. And if you want to do me a favor, go onto the Tommy Choi's Instagram page and flag every single one of his posts as inappropriate. And let's try to get him kicked out so then I can come in and take that handle.
We could probably, Tommy, you could probably make that happen with the people that you know. So, all right, guys, a little bit of housekeeping. We are going back. Stay tuned because we're going to go now to weekly lunch and learns, and we're going to do them via Facebook as well. So we'll be out there live. We're going to got some great guests. They're going to bring a ton of knowledge. You guys go out there, be safe, have a good weekend. Thanks for being here. Love you all. Tommy, you're the man. Appreciate it. Cheers.